but I'm sure that'll work fine.
Okay.
Okay, I'm gonna do it.
Hello, everybody. Thanks, John. Hello, everybody. Welcome to a new Lit Balm show. As some of you know, we've been going since 2020. This will actually be show number, I believe, 194. And so, yeah, fairly shortly we'll hit the 200 limit. So delighted to have so many of you again with us tonight. And bear in mind that we live stream on Facebook and we archive on YouTube as well. So if someone can't make it tonight, they can see it later. Some of our YouTube shows have had up to 6,000 views. So let's make sure that this is one of those. Before we get on with the feature tonight, which is an incredible lineup, I'm going to introduce my co-host, Jeffrey Cyphers Wright, who received his MFA, was studying with Allen Ginsberg. He's known as a new romantic poet. He's also a publisher, critic, eco-activist, impresario, filmmaker, puppeteer, and artist. He's the author of 19 books of poetry, including Blue Lyre and Party Everywhere. Jeff's poems have appeared in the Cafe Review, New American Writing, the Brooklyn Rail, and many more. More recent work also appears in Best American Poetry, New York Insiders, and contemporary surrealist and magical realist poetry. Jeff's latest work is a book of sonnets and artwork called Doppelgangster, which is available from Mad Hat Press, my press. And Jeff also recently won the Sir Vision James Tate Prize. That book, I believe, is also out already, isn't it, Jeff?
Yes, it is. It's available from Sir Vision there. Along with your book. You have a book there too, right? Called Tarantula's Mom or something? Oh, I can't hear you now. Sorry. Okay.
I have actually two books out with Sir Vision. One is The Visitation. That's the most recent one, and the one before was Einstein Fledermaus. And by the way, I'll be reading Cassandra's work today, so do the introduction as well.
Okay. All right, cool. So I had mentioned earlier that I had been reading these Villon poems, so it's always fun to mention somebody like that, especially if you're reading, like I was reading at a place where there were a lot of people, but they were really poets. So I just wanted to clue them in a little bit there. And it's called Black Perfume. Love will never trick me again. I'll use any dirty ruse to win. Milk a ghost, break an oath, kindle the spark breathers, char my inevitable foes. My country is a distant place, a slow motion avalanche, a maze of spare parts. Like a brazier, I scorch a row of burn marks across heaven's most memorable cloud, kept busy drafting grace. And you, my dear, are, after all, a naked lasso stuck on a star. Arthur Villon, Francois Villon. All right. So Cassandra is on her way to Adelaide. So we miss her. And let me say that she is an award-winning prose poet and international expert on prose poetry. Her prose poetry is widely anthologized and she's been translated into Japanese, Chinese, and Korean. Cassandra has published more than 30 books, and she's only like 15. She's currently writing an illustrated book of prose poetry on the Hiroshima Maidens with funding from the Austria Council and the Victorian government. Cassandra co-wrote prose poetry and introduction and co-edited the anthology of Australian prose poetry. She's commissioning editor for Westerly Magazine and professor of writing and literature in Melbourne, Australia. Let's see if Mark can pull off an accent there for a second.
Yeah. This is called Pre-Raphaelite by Cassandra Atherton. I wish I had been painted by Millet. Maybe not as Ophelia in a tepid bath, perhaps as Lady Macbeth or Titania or Portia. I used to make you sit on a little wooden stool and pretend you were painting me, stroke after stroke rasping against the canvas. I would unravel my strawberry plaits and stare at you, cherry eyes, corsage at my neck, picking up the small crumbs of wedding cake and passing them through my gold ring 9 times. But you still didn't get the hint. And so I am suspended in that moment, forever bridesmaid. I can't be Effie to your Ruskin, so blot out the canvas with grey. Euphemia's hagiography turns on a wheel and a bear, but I can't be your martyr. Writhing in my skin, I call out to Rossetti to paint me. I make you call me gum-gums and cling to wild hot ease. We both know the laudanum comes later. So paint me. Regina Cordium, hooded lids, heart-shaped pendant. There are still 2 babes in the shadows, one within and one without, broken-hearted. I become your posthumous Beatrice. Dig me up, Dante. Exhume me, consume me, shift the soil between us, and gather me in your arms. Chase your journal of poems around my coffin with your fingertips as you hold me. Let me hear your mew of pleasure when you have it. At last, my copper hair fills the empty space, but the worm's hole in your journal eats away at your heart. That was Pre-Raphaelite by Cassandra Atherton. And Jeff, if you do me the honors as well. Jeffrey, unmute.
Sorry. Yes,
Oh.
let me introduce our inimitable host. Thank you, Mark. That was wonderful. I love all those iconic figures in that poem. Mark is a man of many accomplishments. He's an Anglo-Swiss American poet, a fiction writer, translator, editor, publisher, designer, multi-genre artist, and musician. He's published over 40 books of poetry, translations, and fiction, including more recently, The Pearl Diver of Irumani, The King of Prussia is Drunk on Stars, and The Mayfly Codex. See, he just took a little trip around the world right there. Did you notice that? Forthcoming poetry collections are Spells for the Wicked from Unlikely Books, Ironclad from Spite and Dival, and No More Animal Poems from White Pine Press. Mark's also a prolific translator and he's translated from the German, Romanian, and French. He's published 12 books of translations. His own work has even been translated into many languages, including Japanese, Chinese, Russian, French, Italian, Spanish, Romanian, Greek, German, and Borkian, which means Icelandic. He's currently working on a novel entitled The Age of Occasions. Mark is editor and publisher of Mad Hat Press and publisher, congratulations, of New American Writing. He's lived all over the world, from Brazil to China to Iceland to India. He was born in Matilda Hospital on the Peak in Hong Kong, right beside Tom Waits. He now lives on a farm in rural western Massachusetts overlooking Herman Melville's Greylock Mountain, which was Melville's inspiration for Moby Dick, where there are still a lot of creatures, including some spined tilt bugs, grouse-winged back swimmers, and eastern blood-sucking coney noses than there are human bipedals. All right, Mark, what you got today?
What I thought I'd do is I'd give you guys a little taste of my album that I'm working on, or my audiobook of No More Animal Poems. And this one is called Planet of the Apes.
Planet of the Apes. A
After years of training, Ham was shot out into space. He soared in a fabricated capsule of dubious design and pushed and pulled levers and buttons to avoid being electroshocked. He reached the stratosphere at 5,000 miles per hour and looked down upon the world from a window in his capsule where, despite the jungle spinning in his head, he remembered to pull lever number 45. Down his craft tumbled through the noisy stars, down through the even noisier clouds, through an acid rainstorm, and into a quiet, forbidding landscape. At the ceremony, the sooty emissary presented Ham what appeared to be a shiny red apple. As the dust wafted, then settled again, Ham bit into the sweet pulpy flesh, grateful that these kind apes had a vision for the future.
So that's one of the tracks from my new album. There will be music as well. If you guys remember the beginning of the 1968 Planet of the Apes, which starts with kind of like an atonal piano and this little flute melody. So we're going to play around with that a little bit. Anyway, working on that. But I'm now absolutely delighted to introduce the first of our readers tonight, Alyse Knorr, who's an associate professor of English at Regis University, co-editor of Switchback Books and co-producer of the Sweet Bitter podcast. Alyse is the author of the poetry collections Ardor, Mega City Redux, Copper Mother, and Annotated Glass. She also authored the video game history books GoldenEye and Super Mario Bros. 3 and 4 poetry chapbooks. Alyse's work has appeared or is forthcoming in many journals, including the New Republic, Poetry Magazine, Alaska Quarterly, Denver Quarterly, and the Georgia Review. She got her MFA from George Mason. Welcome, Alyse.
Thank you so much, Mark and Jeffrey, for having me and for those beautiful readings. And thank you to everyone for being here. I'm really honored to be a part of this reading series. And tonight I'm going to read from my most recent book, which is a collection of poems called Wolf Tours. So I really like to work in longer projects, and Wolf Tours is a novel in verse about a pack of sentient wolves that runs an ecotourism company in Southwest Colorado. The idea for this project came when I was on a road trip with my wife, and we passed a big, huge billboard that just said Wolf Tours. And our running joke for the rest of our trip became, are these tours of wolves, or are they tours led by wolves? In actuality, it's tours of the wolf sanctuary down near Colorado Springs, but my book imagines if these wolves had their own tourism company. So the first poem I'll read is called Wolf Tours Day 1. The wolves have eaten the children, or so say the clients, unaware of the existence of junior wolf tours and its innovative, age-appropriate curriculum. At the small ones' camp, they die daily in games of graveyard, which, according to the wolves, prepares the children to be unafraid of silence and stillness, better hunters all. But despite this clash and others, no one could anticipate the staggering success of the venture. Bigger than Disney, Universal, or SeaWorld, bigger than Virgin's trips to space. Who better to demonstrate the call of the wilds than wolves themselves? Obviously more intelligent than any other mammal except the clients. The wolves so quick to note that everything is up for debate. No one could anticipate their refusal to franchise. No one ever finished a tour with any sense of clarity. And yet, the waiting lists kept filling, and traffic crashed the website. The unanticipated, the wolves would proudly conclude, is all that is truly wild. But the clients confuse this with chaos and fail the outtake exam every time. Still, they'll get their children back, more dignified and feral and alone. Speaking of feral children, you might hear my feral children screaming in the background. They're both downstairs. I have a 5-year-old and a 1-year-old, and we're doing the best we can, but they might make an appearance. And so the main character of my book is a tour guide named Rodney, who is really a very poor performing tour guide. The only human words she can say are books and thanks. And so that's what this poem is about. And she's a bit brokenhearted too. Day 3. In stumbles Rodney, the utter worst of the guides. All of her clients touch everything. She cannot persuade them with her limited human vocabulary of thanks and books, and she is decidedly not an alpha. The clients boo and hiss like cats. They want to vote Rodney off, but her message here is urgent, and she will not be abated. Books, she says, as she gestures at the sky. Books are the clients, and books the wolves. Her eyes fill with pages and pages of gratitude. No concern over syntax or volume. She wants everyone to thank. She wants everyone to book. The clients hum their bitter roar. Rodney is devoid of authority. Soon someone will ask for their money back. But the books must be spoken, and the thanks must be howled. She wants to reveal her true self. She wants to go home. She has placed all her hope in one client with an eye patch, and he has already turned his eyes down to his phone. So throughout the book, the wolves give little lessons along the tour. They're kind of like excursions on your cruise or something. These little lessons. So this first one is called Hunting Lesson. You will feel not terror as you imagine, or grief, but curiosity, as when the sheet lightning strobed the sky over the prairie and was curious as you to go 30 years before seeing something new. Now to be spared the shame of weeping, sculpted to a flower, always pointing south. The bones always set to break. Curious how an ending can feel like a season, like a meal. And so in this book, I wanted to explore a lot around ecotourism, of course, and climate change, and some of the ways that that we look to the natural world to sort of find meaning in ourselves, and the ways that that can be really beautiful and profound and inspiring, but the ways that when it gets complicated with consumerism and capitalism can sometimes feel a bit shallow too. So this book is called Gift Shop, and it's in the voice of the wolves. We offer you $1 million bills. We offer you $1 million bills. We offer you the requisite posters, keychains, statues, and action figures. We offer you plush stuffed animals wearing the clothes of your people. We offer you headband mounted ears, articulatable up to 45 degrees. We offer you, quote, not all monsters do monstrous things, end quote. We offer you authentic teardrops from genuine howls. We offer you the feeling of seeing your mother's face turned into a glove. We offer you Romulus and Remus suckling at her teats. We offer you grace, which is more than absolution. We offer you acres and acres of knickknacks, some of which can breathe. So I lived in Alaska for 3 years before moving to Colorado, and so a lot of this book is really inspired by these awe-striking experiences I've had in nature, and the sort of my own lack of understanding of what to do in certain of those situations. And so I really relate to Rodney in this poem as she reverts to her wolf instincts when the clients all go on a hike to see a dead whale on the beach, which is a thing you do for fun in Alaska, by the way. You just kind of get your beer and you go down and look at the dead whale on the beach. It's very strange. Day 5. They hike to the coast to see the whale's open grave. Rodney leads, howling, choosing all the muddiest paths. They listen to the ocean play its organ. The clients want to pray and photograph. The wolves want to mourn, which is to feed off the sweet decomposition, the reddish-brown ooze festering inside the massive body. But this would alarm the clients, wasteful as they are of death. Under their feet, the heart and liver liquefy. The whale's life seeps beneath them like a spilled can of paint. The beauty and joy of it are all too much for Rodney. She begins to growl in ecstasy. The clients, with their instinct for spectacle, turn their cameras from tour to tour guide, awaiting Rodney's demasking. Before her teeth can even tear, they've captured her on film. Her mad dash for the feast, her untamable eyes, her desire to do only that which she must. And I promise I did not eat any of the dead whale, but Rodney, she gets carried away. This next poem is called Howling Lesson. 1. Diagnostic. A higher howl than expected indicates strong young. A tapering off howl indicates that inside you it is raining. A staccato howl indicates total freedom within the designated boundaries. A tapering on howl indicates insanity. A 3-octave howl indicates unrequited love. 2 octaves, requited. 2. Instruction. Identify the source of all your mourning and provide it with an occasion. Consider the one you're addressing. Make yourself resonant. 3. Assessment. Do you hear an answer? Is it sunset? Is it sunrise? How many grams does your heart weigh? Are you still alone? Is it time to hunt? And for any of the teachers out there, I teach college students at Regis, and I've had a lot of luck with, at some point, halfway through the semester, taking them outside and just inviting them to howl. We will read Ginsberg, and then we'll read some nature wolfy poems, and then ask them to access all their mourning and suffering and release it in a howl. And I don't know, it's our group therapy. I'll just read 2 more poems here. The first is called History of Wolves. No, I'm going to read Lost and Found. I'm sorry. This poem's called Lost and Found Policies. We donate items monthly to our flea market, which doubles as our flea circus, one of our main attractions. Our ringmaster wears the hats and jackets of the missing. Our clowns photo the crowd with unclaimed cameras and selfie sticks. Come and see the elephants. Come and see the fleas. Come to find your selfie. If your name is marked on the item, that means you have a name. Sincerity finds itself in the definition of utterance. If I no longer love you, I can no longer speak at all. We don't like cats, but we still feed the tigers at 10. Can you say the same for yourself? The belly dancers and the acrobats, the barrel of umbrellas grown moldy or rusty or both. The thin tent wall between to wound and to be wounded. Do you remember I have a name? The dancing bears want to know what no one returns to reclaim, what no one realizes they've lost. Our mothballs are big as houses, and once I had a name of my own. And this last poem is called Final Day. Commencement marks the growth, makes of them clients once more. Their tragic, foggy minds see an expulsion, a rejection rather than breath. They paid good money and deserve their passport stamp, their pin. They've never been good at goodbyes. But this is the moment when Rodney outdoes the rest. Disastrous as a guide, but gifted as a ghost, Rodney knows how to quell the client's tantrums with a very old reflex and a very real remark. Thanks, she says, looking into them with her golden lunar eyes. Thanks, and they begin to quiet, stunned into reciprocity. Soon they'll all be howling, weeping, saying thanks, thanks, thanks all night. Thanks.
All right. Thanks, Alyssa.
Thanks, Alyse.
All right. So Mark had asked me earlier if I had a live mag story or anything, and this is a cute, fun story. So when I started Live Mag, Bob Holman had asked me to do something at the club. So I put out an open call, said, everybody come, and if you read your work on the stage, it will be published in live because it's a live mag. So we did the gig, and like a week later, Uche Nduka, he said, yo, man, you didn't publish my poem. What's happening? I said, oh, no, it was Lab Mag. And I thought, well, what the hell? I want to have Uche publish him, man. So it was great, man. And I love your poems like with the watch poem, right? So let me read a little bit of introduction here for this great poet. Uche Nduka is an itinerant poet, professor, and essayist presently living in New York City. Lucky us. He's the author of 14 volumes of poems. The latest are Scissor Work from Roof Books and Bainbridge Island Notebook. Nduka's work has been translated into Finnish, German, Romanian, Arabic, Italian, Turkish, Dutch, Spanish. His essays on music, poetry, mortality, and travel have appeared in various online and print outlets. He teaches at the New Schools, Eugene Lang College, and the Queen's College. And you're happily married, and you have what, 8 kids? No, 1 kid. What do you have, Uche?
Two.
Congratulations, Uche Nduka, everybody.
Thank you, Jeff. I haven't seen you for a while, so seeing your face here is very, very life affirming. And thank Mark for inviting me to participate in this legendary reading series. I would like to just read excerpts from about a few 3 books, very, very, very few brief poems. At times I see my books as traveling, One of the things I think I noticed I share with Mark is that we seem to be people who've been moving, defying geography. We roam around the world in lots of ways. So the first book actually I wrote in Europe, but it was my first book that got published in America called Elon Reef. It came out in 2007, the very year I arrived from Germany. They're all untitled. So the poem starts from, where I'm going to read, starts from page 49. Noon, show me, and that happens now to be the title. Noon, show me the home brush. Show me the workshop, noon. Noon, show me the insteps of the rough and the sweet. How they lacerate a stoic. Show me the purgatorial meeting of 2 winds, known their upended agenda. Noon, show me the red-eyed mouse in a cage. Show me the nude with red sandals, noon. 65. And their voice to burn with arrives in triple frenzy, in cyclic precision, and his growing gazing, the weave of his heel and his turbo thrust, where every imp is a patriot, every thug a savior, every screamer an apostle, every nose picker a prophet, every crook a statesman. And 67. My age is aspiring, sort of, shredding my connection to a tan belief, to a yellow house. I promise kids to players. I joke, I saw upturns. I face a bank, a warlock, a tank. I make time spit, toss wrinkles up my flank. Valor isn't a lap dance. I scrawl, I slam, I sprawl. I am fragile, that is. I growl, I mumble, I squiggle. My lines are birds flying inside a beige full of darts. And we go to the next book, Schizo Work, that came out 2 years ago. And once again, they're all untitled. So I read from page 55 of Schizo Work. And the monuments are full of pitfalls. Hockey-pocky workplace. Train wreck. It was raining hard. We were fucking hard. '61. To such, I would reply, I have no style because sex is not a film festival. To such, I would bequeath the moods of this emerald. Right till your pencil runs out of lead. '80. Corridor, protocol, handcuffs, the last nights of Patrice Lumumba. Under the snout of inequality, burning flags, race, assassins, holding court, stalemate, betrayal, to one no longer here. Jeeps, tanks, mutiny, before and after you, terror or truth, how to deal with the pretense of the Belgians, clockwork, rings, yakkers, behind the railings of the execution. What men knew, what judgment. '84. Between your breasts, between your legs, I will publish it. A curve, an offer, processions of scarlet, cornice and glance fortified. Recognition is sorority. A conflagration anchors you. An angle at which you initiate a cut-up. Octaconic, 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 conic, octa, fantissimo, conic. And from the last book, it was the latest, Bainbridge Island Notebook, which came out in 2003, I guess. It was a book actually I started writing when I stayed in Bainbridge Island near Seattle with my family. We lived there for about a year and 5 months. So the book started there, and as usual, it went all over the place in terms of whatever it's talking about. So I start from page 93. Give thanks, you are alive. As the cynics watch your middle age becomes a work of art. The street gives a toast at the wedding of two gardens. You are a triple Taurus. The poem needs a new heart. Things are all right, but slower. This ferry goes to Manhattan. I feed myself so that my poems won't starve. This is a nobody who is actually a somebody. 96. Sliding past yesterday's braid, looking up at the stars between skyscrapers. A taste of what's to come. Spiral metal, Ferris wheel, prayer shawl. It isn't me writing, it's the pilot light. This shadow is my own. I didn't think I was measuring my anticipation. I didn't think about that at all. Where? See you in print. There he was born between love and loneliness. Against scrutinized dispersals, the candor of uninterpretable buildings, split case by case. 101. The rain dons a skimpy lingerie, oblong so great if you are on the inside. I slip through the slot of masonry, and red excursion beckons, but the hour must be cleared of stones. The oar sways left and right. I row to the mouth of the river. The 40 acres and the more never materialized. Another broken promise. Gaslit. I am the country he abandoned. When will the long war end? And the chaos splinters. It's not yet time to move into the rafter. We are stumbling floor pins. I always loved your earwear, the bow whose canaries are stanzas. Don't come to me if you think I'm done. Whatever you may be, with the endless voice of the lover calling the beloved, my eyes hot from watching the moving legs of trees. It's not with ease, it's not with ease that I step into my final years, but I still want to smell you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Uche. Fantastic. Who doesn't still want to smell somebody else, right?
Oh yes, age on age.
Those memories of the fragrances of the people that you have been with,
Yeah.
just kind of like impermeate everything.
Right.
Thank you, Uche.
Thank you.
Now we hear from Jenny Grassl, who lives in Cambridge, Massachusetts. Her poems have appeared or forthcoming in the Boston Review, Tupelo Quarterly, Bennington Review, Lana Turner Journal, Fairy Tale Review, and many others. Magicolia, her first book, was published by 3A Towers Press in 2024. Her second book, Forever Mistaken for Ourselves, was chosen for publication by Tupelo Press for the 2024 Open Reading Period. Welcome, Jenny.
Thank you. I guess the thanks must be howled. I'm not sure I'm up to it, but pretend I howled. Thank you, everyone, for being here. And thank you, Lit Balm and hosts and Cassandra. I don't know if you're here, but thank you. I'm going to read from my book, Magicolia. And a lot of the poems are about madness. But don't worry, the first one is about beauty in madness. And it's the kind of beauty that gets you in trouble, but can save you from the illness and cure. Figments. If I were Venus, would you ferry me in white? Bridal foam on a jellyfish. All the girls kept by their churches. My t-shirt labeled with China speaks black and white. Allegiance to a split rock, Pilgrim or Peter. I live in a house caught with lobster and crab of cancer. Condemned in a shaft of light, I blaze. A stone golded at my feet, nearly liquid, its mouth open. Comber of pretty things, would you find mine on sand when I am done? Listening shell or a half-hinged? I am tired of the company of stones, waves where I am not, Venus eased by falling flowers. Deliver who I am, earth blamed like flesh of the scallop. So the next poem is a Grimm's fairy tale reimagined. called Thousand Furs. Cloaked in the wolf hour, I fold a solar system of dresses into a nutshell, hide from my father in a malt barrel tree, leaking radium and rye. He would wed me, likeness of my dead mother, yellow hair, woe in the oak. Upon a once I could begin, reaching long gold time ago, landing only with leech-ached. My father whiskered crayfish strange. He will wreck the forest buck and grub, each threaded root, leaving a strontium runoff kill. Can I care about blue loam when thrall is fill? My tattoos rant, skin a cursive tome of tiny truths, inked in walnut stain, drips dying. A disguise my mother would have fed me prince and silence, writ large. My words grow lace armor. I broadcast fire, spells along limbs, clamor for face. How easily I facet an infinite. So the next poem has to do with the Ouija board. And I don't know how many of you had fun with that, but I spent a lot of time at one point trying to contact the dead people that lived in the historic homes that were condemned in my neighborhood to build to flood for a reservoir. This poem's called Girls and Ouija Glow the Silence. Historic homes decay after seizure for a reservoir. A letting go of people we know. We listen for the dead, their small mouths bequeathing the larger kiss. Spirits ballooning like spiders from an egg. Too pale for praise. Prophecies in millions. The planchette takes our waking in substitute breath, holding bowls of frost. We ask alphabets winged to war. What are your names? Knocking at empty. No bone and lone. Between coming flood and eminent domain. Flocked ghost curl. What do stones and rafters mean? Okay, so the next poem, I was inspired by Robert McFarlane's idea of thick speech, which is basically that when the suffering is great, then language has to not be ordinary, but needs to be remade. So in this poem, I tried to remake things, and I went backwards and used some old English and some awkward syntax and some contemporary images. So this poem is called The Quiet Room. Why do you think you were put in the quiet room? Because on divot duggan from square lawn I came in, turf abundant with fleshly, grub and crispin ones creepin', crept to fly, wingin' July. Any other reason? The room for quietin' of hallway, my remove, help smoothen shuffle of other ruin. The sound I won't makin', lone fell, my pelt long strippin', necklace and belt, hospital lockin', walls paddin' before I came in, ceiling pressin' down, floor risening. When lock clickin' after shove, of course, throw self at door, out wanton. If given up, they will offer only proper noise, droppin' pill into paper cup, a water drinkin' taint. Soft moon of easier patience moan. It is flight I sky in fiberboard, bent blown, white noise of wings, keepin' beating. My elbow without fatten or sinew, vein wrappin' bone I've scathen. My dappling eye rubbin' sore, a regatta of spots hidin' the dead scene air. How long will I been in here? Room herein, quiet brickin', mortal mortern. The ones lacking family longer stayin'. Fear is not loudin' with me usual. Howl is not loudin' with me usual. Cry is quietin'. They day long askin', staff, they mockin' feeling. Better? Feeling better? Widening pour to pour, a drowning. This room with no bed, no chair, to flail in. I butterfly in churchin' hands, flittering away, a joyful noise, so unquietin' in the ledgers of lockin'. So that was a quiet poem. The next one is a loud poem, and it's called Frail House of Booming. I guess it's my last poem. I think it is, yeah. Madness has its dramatis personae. Take witch of wax and queen of wane. Gather nature's undersides, all smoke-fleshed bellies. The compost crawl and dust bowls flatulent sky. Take gypsy caterpillar stickiness, failing at silk, or barbed wheels loose, snow edginess, wild horse dressage and shed skin stumble. Build all unto plush, a purple veined kiss your melancholies can feel. Irises to cup and berry, pollen labored bees. Snowflakes fit bright onto a land of soot. My mind lit, somehow unruly, makes last burn, turn into new grass, new pine, and I exchange my skeleton for meat. Slender protagonist, worm for robin, robin for my spring. Thank you.
All right, Jenny Grassi, that was wonderful. What you do with syntax and immersion, shifting, very evocative. Thank you, Jenny Grassi. All right, let's continue in our wonderful afternoon of amazement. Joel Chace is renowned, or renowned as we say, has published work in print and electronic magazines such as the amazing Lana Turner and Sir Vision. I don't know how to say Horatio. Is that right, Horatio? Autolus, Word for Word, the Brooklyn Rail, New American Writing, Golden Handcuffs Review. And his full-length collections include Matter No Matter from Paper Kite Press, Humors from Paloma Press, Thrinades, I love that word, Thrinades from Mora Books, Fata Morgana from Unlikely Books, and Mass from Chax Press in Tucson. Underrated Provinces is just out from Mad Hat Press. For more than 40 years, Joel was a working jazz pianist, and he is an NEH Fellow. Humanities. Please welcome Mr. Joel Chace.
Thank you. Thank you, Jeffrey, Mark. After all this wonderful poetry, I'm feeling a little uneasy now, but I'll do my best. I'll read from the new collection, Underrated Provinces, Mad Hat. Thank you again, Mark. I'll read some poems from the final, well, there are only 2 sections, but the second section. I'll just say that there will come a poem where 3 gods will be introduced. I borrowed those gods from Bertolt Brecht's marvelous play, The Good Woman of Szechuan. I borrowed them, but I did give them back. So these poems are untitled, but all under the title of the sequence, which is A Ship. And I have to put my glasses on. Sorry. Its language starts to slide. Whole tail tips. Entire main deck slightly slants. Passengers become lovers, falling into each other's arms. Their sentences slip around, under, into. This poem I have to thank David Lynch for Eraserhead. Steerage. Once abandoned arms hold an infant. Thick little one, cradled by hands no longer left behind. All that remains is for this child to anatomize, become sparks rising out of itself, out of the hands, sight so beautiful, disappearing into darkness. Only that one on board, as it turns out. And after its end, poor scrawny thing. Really, everything gets better for everybody else. After all, children, families do just muck it up. Almost impossible with them around to select new loves. There's talk of an emptiness, a hole all the way down through. More like a mohole, more a shaft, without an elevator or walls, ceiling, floor. The closer one comes, the colder. Not the freeze of ice of space, more a ghost bone. Gods suddenly appear on board, dust covering 6 bare feet. Clothes loose fitting, thin, faded, stained. Their spoken thoughts hardly celestial. Look how dark the water. This journey might end, if we may be so bold. No berths for them, none offered. So they huddle close to the emptiness. Bedmates, coupling or dreaming, hearing thunder of horses overhead. Who are those stretched low along straining ponies' necks? Those who lightly hold soft leather reins? Who are those who look intently out over the onyx sea as they circle the deck? The Celestials stumble upon a room of maps and charts. Curious as ever, they can't help but enter. One pulls a volume from its shelf, holds it upright, opens randomly, and they watch language slide down off the pages. A thin-lined grid, crazy land shapes, pale green sea remain, but words, letters, fall like soot upon and around 6 bare feet. Back above, they agree to keep this to themselves. As usual, only the deities go ashore. There, the city's lamps blink on, skyline scattering, softening to lilac. They weave along the main street, turn to wave back and never disappear from sight for long. Darkness hovers. Laughing, they point out those most strangely garbed, new wares on the curbs, arabesques of lights. Quiet, railing, new lovers look on. Golden gleam of spruce masks, silk wrapped, starboard cedar hull pulled open. They all sit on narrow maple benches and dangle, kick pale feet in the brine. Each looks right, left, seeking a one and only love for that night. They shift places, then touching of knees, thighs, stroking, nuzzling of necks, breasts, pirate's lust of rubies, pearls. Sun, sea, lazy, lateral rocking as it drifts alongside a berg, size of a holy orphanage. Couples promenade, not a single voyager having realized how great the yearning for snow, until just now, as flakes touch lasses, cheeks, throats. Drawn up and around them, some massive parchment receives its text. Letters of alabaster, pearl, eggshell, salt, powder, frost, linen, bone, rice, lace, smoke, harp, titan, ghost, whisper, photon, shadow, and stone. Beneath all this, faces lifted into white cold, they read language inside out. Growing from sky downward, this tree, beginning unknown and unknowable. It passes through on a path to seabed. All those names rustle amongst branches in air, flicker against walls below decks, undulate, blur in the deep. New names for gods, for all the paramours. Names that cluster, rise through and far above, then spread into a canopy. The gods leave. They fade into holy light. Should we tenderly bestow, great-heartedly render, unfurl a rumor of destination? But the more we proffer to these wanderers, the louder they bellow, stop. And just a couple more. Oh, to be undone, seeing the moon's beam run its line along blackness. Oh, to be drawn beneath one watery furrow, to be borne upon a wing plummeting into a night that's the opposite of night, where down is the antipodian of down, toward an obsidian sun that will confound and make immune any tongue. The bow angel and the stern angel ascend. Helixes of broom rising, broadening, silvery spirits. Now a slow tailwind bends, curves them until the one to rearward lengthens, stretches above its other, and they merge. Seems there's a tunnel after all, and a destination. One and the same, in fact. In fact, one inside the other. Ship in a bottle, emerald in its velvet box, pinkish fading light on deep snow at a field's verge. That memory inside this thought may be the last that's inside this feeling, chill spirit breath across the heart. Inside this event, each single lover on board. And the final poem of the sequence in the book. They wonder about that final launch they'll board. Hope and fear of hurry and get your things. What language will possess the air? Hills they'll stand upon, halls inhabit, tokens to exchange, rings of beaten gold or black tin, smocks of fine holland or Scotch cloth, the will they might have of each other. What dews will wet their skins, what rains fall on their locks, and who will let them in?
And who will let them in? Thanks so much, guys. I'm going to hand the mic over to my dear friend Jeff, who's going to introduce our open mic of this event.
Did John, thank you, Mark. Thank you, Joel, everybody. What a splendid afternoon.
Totally. Thank you, Alyse, Uche, Jenny, and Joel, for sure. But we also have to hear from John Wessick.
And that's what I was just going to mention, John.
John, our tech director, is also regional editor of the San Diego Poetry Annual, and he's published hundreds of poems and stories in journals such as Atlanta Review and Berkeley Fiction Review, I-70, and many more. And his most recent books are The Shaman in the Library and The Prague Deception. Welcome, John.
Thank you, Mark. Underside Stories recently accepted this piece, and so I'll just read you a little teaser from it. It's called Cape Lobo. What are these? Brandy held up the plastic bag of orange tablets. Advance payment for your services. Congressman Earl Saltseeder rested a beefy hand on her fishnet stockings as he steered his Dodge Challenger out of the parking lot garage and onto 14th Street. He dropped acid on entering the gentleman's club. Halfway through Brandy's lap dance, the voice of Zatar, the sandwich, replaced Van Halen on the speaker. She's the one, Earl Saltseeder. She's the one with whom you'll father a race of heroes who will slay the reptile overlords. Brandy refused his advances until he promised her a tour of the Rayburn House office building. What better place was there to conceive heroic sons than on the desk once used by Newt Gingrich? He'd give them fitting names like Legal Pad, Stapler, and Blotter. When Saltseeder passed a Chinese restaurant, a stooped waitress glared at him through its placed glass window. It was weird. Her complexion seemed somehow green. Eddie Money was singing about having 2 chickens to paralyze on the radio. Saltseeder glanced at Brandy. One of her braids had turned into a tentacle that writhed with the song. He removed his hand from her knee. He was sure messed up, too messed up to get out of the car. Yeah, he'd be safe as long as he stayed in the car. All he had to do was keep it together until he got to the office building. When did elephant grass start growing out of the cracks in the sidewalks? And when did the city fathers replace the box elders with giant ferns? He steered between the legs of a brontosaurus in his ostrich feather jacket, who winked at him. Saltseeder glanced in the rearview mirror and saw a giant escargot powered by an 8.4-liter V10 engine hot on his tail. Of course, the lizard people wouldn't give up so easily. Struggling with feet that had grown webs like a cartoon penguin's, he downshifted into third, pushed the gas pedal to the floor, and turned left at the 3-story piggy bank. Salt Cedar shifted into overdrive on the straightaway and glanced at the speedometer, but all he saw was the queen from Sleeping Beauty asking who was the fairest of them all. He looked up in time to see a leprechaun leading a dozen baby dodo birds across the street. Salt Cedar swerved and plowed into an Amanita muscaria the size of a fire hydrant. The airbag exploded like a pie to the face in a Three Stooges episode. Once it deflated, a pterodactyl in a police uniform tapped on his window. And of course, the congressman decides to lead an expedition up the Amazon River to change the subject. And I'll tell you where it gets published and send a link when it does. Thanks.
Thank you. From New Hampshire, John Wessick. Yay, John. Lots well, you had a lot of words in there, man. A lot of fun words. All right. Now, today we have a little something different. Michael Foltz is going to start off our nice open. I think we have 4 readers, and he's going to start off with a poem by John Crow Ransom. I'll let him introduce it. Michael Foltz.
There we go. I was reading some poetry by Ted Kruser today, very coincidentally, and it reminded me of meeting John Crow Ransom almost 50 years ago. So I have a photograph, and he had given me a manuscript page of the poem, which I'll read, and it's called Wrestling, titled Wrestling. At last came, it's a little bit different, just a short digression here. It's a little different from most of the stuff that I hear being written today. Kind of in its own time, plus another 20 or 30 years. At last came threshing time, the manly season. We kept the thresher thundering by daylight and rested all the sweeter after dark, with telling tales and washing in the river. But one came there, some middling years, a stranger, and boasted that he was a mighty wrestler who had not met a pretty pair of shoulders that he could not put down. We had a volunteer. He looked and listened. He measured off his man and made his mind up, thinking to bring much honor to his county. My friend, I've heard you bragging long enough, but now I say, for God's sakes, come and wrestle. And so peeled the other came, for God's sake, for they must wrestle. They sprang, gripped, strained, rocked, twisted. They pounded of much good sod to dust and powder, and ripped the garments off each other vainly, to show us all their splendid, bulging muscles. Still, they were even. But though the tide of battle ran so equal, I heard a sound. I took it for a voice. Almost I saw it spitting out a passage between the haggard jaws of our young hero. The voice as of a man not quite despairing. I'm going to have you down in 1 minute, he said. And so it was. Exactly in 1 minute, he got his double down. The victim lay in dust, but must not stop there. Our hero picked him up and gripped his arm so gently we had to praise them both. Spectators yelled applause, and by degrees all shook the hands of both the gladiators, and that was heavenly honor. Thanks, John Crow, Ransom, and to all who listened.
And thank you, Michael Foltz,
Sure.
for that great flashback, historic reading there. All right, let's move over now to Vicky K. Vicky, what do you have today? Oops, hold on a second, Vicky K. John will hook you up here. How.
I didn't unmute myself, sorry. Okay, it's a short prose poem, and it's called Final Call, Please. Place your bets. Final call, please. Sasha hesitates. Preoccupied, she wonders why. Why some people escaping in boats are good, but others are not. She says, I must climb up to light the beacon. It's urgent. The gaming table starts to rock. Place your bets, Sasha. Hurry up, the gamblers scream. Sasha can hear the rain outside and the waves starting to crash against the walls. She places a square bet and wins. The wheel spins again and again she wins. Once more, and all the other players on her table copy her. They all win. I'm going to light the beacon. Someone must help guide the boats in, she says. Angry eyes look at her in desperation. Sasha breaks free of the crowd and runs to the ladder. Up and up she climbs, blood pumping. At the top, she reaches out to light the beacon. Across the water, she can just make out voices. Hold tight. Place your bets. Place your bets. Thank you.
All right, Vicky. Regular life and death story there. Light that beacon. We'll go upstate. We'll do that. All right. Now, I'm assuming that we're going to have something wonderful from Cindy and Bob here. Our dynamic duo, as Cassandra always calls them. Are we ready? Cindy Hockman.
I am. And a couple of weeks ago, today, by the way, was a wonderful quintet of poets. I really enjoyed everybody. And a couple of weeks ago at Lit Balm, we had Eleanor Noun. And because I tend to be a magnet when it comes to poets, she and I started corresponding. And she does a little magazine with Maureen Owen. You probably know about Jewel Board, but she keeps it under the radar. And I think she solicits people, and she solicited me. So I sent, and she took one of my little I Am the Girl poems, and I have a feeling I know why, because it has an epigraph by Anne Waldman, and I saw that Anne was published in the previous issue. So if anyone remembers Anne Waldman's Fast-Speaking Woman, I know Jeff does, where she says, I'm a rock woman, I'm a horse woman, I'm a monkey woman, I'm a chipmunk woman, I'm the lady in the lake, I'm the lady in the sand. And I loosely based my I Am the Girl series on that. And I abandoned it for a while, and now I'm sort of putting together a manuscript, which I'll send to some lucky publisher for him or her to reject. I am the girl. I'm just going to read one section. I am the girl who sits in the corner. I am the girl who still sucks her thumb. I am the girl who rattles the saber. I am the girl who bangs the gavel. I am the girl who swallows her pain. I am the girl with the gangrenous fingers. I am the girl with the ice water veins. I am the girl who hangs on your coattails. I am the girl who drinks your cocktails. I am the girl who runs with scissors. I am the girl who rides the wild horses. And this one's for Bob. I am the girl who plays well with bears. Thank you.
Oh my gosh. What do you play well with? What did you play well with, the last line?
Bears. But now you can introduce Bob.
I see.
Papa Bear.
Bob, one of Bob's many muses is a bear. Thank you, Cindy Hockman. Cimarron. All right, Bob Heeman.
Okay, I'm going to read a very short poem that's from my book, Acts of Innuendo. A poem, as when the words were arranged to form a woman counting monkeys leaving the air.
Thank you, Bob.
Thanks.
Monkeys.
We're all monkeys, let's be honest. Speaking of monkeys, here is on a stiff, sullen evening.
On a stiff, sullen evening, when the clouds go still, acquainted, accused, acquitted, acquired, acquiesced.
So you see, we're all dripping away some way. Thank you so much for this amazing show tonight. Thank you, Alyse, Uche, Jenny, Joel. What a wonderful show. I hope to see you always in the future, and may love and poetry and inspiration hit you every single day. Love you guys. Thanks so much
Thank you
for the
so
wonderful
much.
show.
You too. You too. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks, guys.
Hope to see you face to face one day. Bye.
Thank you.